一見したオーラの総量が多い少ないなんて気休めにもならねえ。勝敗なんてたゆたってて当たり前。相手のオーラに蹴押され逃げた時点でお前は失格、敗者以下だ。
敵を攻撃しようとしたから腕ずくで止めた。いつ目が覚めるか。
そっちの坊主はまだ見込みがあるな。
天賦の才を持つ者がさらにその才を全て投げ出して殺されるのは僕でよかった。
Greetings, greetings. This is the third and last part of things you never noticed in Hunter x Hunter, many things I didn't notice and hope you didn't either. You can find parts 1 and 2 below. In episode 129, Killua has to protect Komugi from Sayapov, so he makes a protective ring around him, marking his personal space where he can react fast enough and burn his opponent.
この円の中に入ったら殺す。
He seems to have been inspired by Nobunaga, who also uses that exact same technique earlier in the series.
先に言っとくが、俺の間合いに入ったら切るぜ。
And he also has some experience with rings and burning people, which may have also influenced his technique preferences. When Netero came back from the mountains after 2 years of a nonsensical training regime, his abilities were so unbelievable that when he demonstrated them to a dojo, the dojo master, Niels, offered his entire school and begged to be his student. That was the moment when he founded the Shingen-ryu style, a school of martial arts combined with Nen. Netero was the grandmaster of this school, and we know only 3 other members: Bisky, Wing, and Zushi. Including Netero, they're the only people that Killua took the time to assess their battle prowess and vastly underestimated the strength.
あれ以上やってたらあのじいさん殺しててもこの一撃でしまいだよ、バーカ。はい。
キルア君、これから君を殺したいと思います。
ああ、いいよ。無理だから。
私も仲間に入れてください。
ごめん、無理。
どうしてですか？
邪魔だから。
Knuckles' ability, Hakoware, and Meleron's invisibility power, God's Accomplice, are used together in tandem multiple times because of their synergy. And while Knuckle is invisible, his APR is also invisible. At some points in the Chimera Ant arc, Sayapov enters the room where Gon and Neferpito were earlier, only to find they are long gone. An invisible Knuckle then punches him and activates his ability. Sayapov breaks down his body, letting Palm shift her view to the next biggest part of him that happened to be with the king. The APR follows the same logic, since it also appears next to that same part of him, much to the king's confusion. However, as we see right after that, Knuckle is still invisible, meaning that the APR should have been invisible as well. This is a continuity mistake exclusive to the anime, since in the manga it's not explicitly shown that Knuckle stayed invisible. The only way you could explain this and not break the canon would be that the scene where we see it appear is a couple minutes after the strike, and that those scenes do not happen simultaneously as previously assumed. In the show we find out that Grid Island was chosen as the name of Jing's game because it was also an acronym for the first letter of the names of the people that created it. The first capitalized G is for its main developer Jing. R is for Razor, the double E is for Ita and Elena, D for Dune, and the L for List. We never learn about the rest of the developers since Gon never met them, but it's quite possible that we do know for whom the only other capitalized letter stands for. In the 13th German election arc, one of the more successful hunters in the elections is Ikshomp. Ikshomp is a hacker hunter that doesn't speak and permanently lives in the virtual world. He doesn't care about the election, so he uses his candidate speech to taunt Jing and ask for a trade on some digital items from a game, presumably. Considering that Jing would need an end programmer to do the bulk of the spells for the game, and that Ixchomp is renowned enough to be in the top 8 candidates for the new chairman and the Single Star Hunter, it makes sense that he could be involved in the project. And he incidentally has the letter 6 on his shirt, which might be a tease from Togashi himself, since the I is the 6th letter in the name Grid Island. Every letter represents a developer, so he would be the 6th one. And if you're still skeptical, the in-game Masadora card shop bears a striking resemblance to Ixchomp's helmet.
You had that the whole time?
Yeah, I needed some real evidence. You can't really bank on that Zot thing.
One of Netero's most memorable lines was,
敗色恋難敵にこそ前例をもって臨むこと
and his ultimate attack was just that. An attack that takes every last drop of his nen and vitality and unleashes it onto his opponent. An alternative translation replaces the giving my all part with giving my heart and soul, which would make a lot more sense, because considering Netero first offers his soul, and when that's not enough, he offers his heart. I would also mention that the name of his school, Shigenryu, I mentioned earlier, means from the heart, and the shirt he used when he fought with his all also wrote heart. It's also pretty interesting that Netero's supposed ultimate attack does not utilize his main nen type, which is Enhancer, but it's a mixture of emission and transmutation on top of the general manipulation that his whole technique requires. It really makes you think if that's why his attack didn't work as powerfully as he expected it to. Considering the state he was reduced to afterwards, this might have been the first time he ever used it, and didn't really know exactly how strong it would be. So could it be that Netero miscalculated the power of his Zero Hand by that much? When Gon and Killua are being held by Nobunaga, Killua resolves to sacrifice himself in order for Gon to have a chance of escape. But Gon shuts that down pretty fast by hitting Killua in the back of the head. Gon did that because Killua was going to get himself killed, and no matter the reason, he didn't want that. Flash forward to the Chimera Ant arc, and Gon breaks into a rage after Kite loses his hand by Neferpitou. Killua shuts that down pretty fast as well by hitting Gon in the back of the head because he was going to get himself killed. Their places are also exactly the same, and they both are facing the enemy that they would have died to if the strike didn't land in time.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Okay, Thunder Round to close off the series. Leorio picks fights constantly throughout the anime, yet every time he got into anything resembling a physical fight, those fights always ended with a single strike. He lost to one hit from Hisoka, technically won with one hit against Jing, and his opponent Bodoro in the Hunter exam was one shot by Killua. We only know of 2 people who were the sole winner of their year's Hunter exam, Killua and Jing. In all of her scenes, Hina's hat matches her mood. Pariston Hill is an anagram for Paris Hilton. I don't know why, it just is. There's a probably deliberate choice to make a connection between Chrollo and Jesus Christ.